So let's do Ain't Them Body Saints, which there's been a lot of press interest in. Second feature film from David Lowery, set in the Texas Hill country in early 1970s. Ben Affleck and Rooney Mara are lovers and outlaws, very much in the manner of, for example, Bonnie and Clyde. Very early on in the film, they are involved in some form of botched heist. It's never really fully explained exactly what happens, but they end up holed up, being surrounded by the police. A policeman is shot. He is arrested. He is sentenced to 25 to life. They are then separated, and she is left holding the baby. He is left writing her letters from prison. Here's a clip.
Dear Ruth, I dreamed about you again last night. I guess I dream about you every night. And most days, too. I hold your face in my mind. I put your voice together in my head. I think about your hair getting longer. I think about your belly getting bigger. I hear people talk about regret, but I haven't got any. I don't think poorly on the things that I have done. We did what we did, and that is who we are. They're going to cross out this sentence before you get to read it, but I know you know what it says. Every day I wake up thinking today's the day I'm going to see you. And one of those days, it will be so.
So, as you could probably hear from that clip, one of the things that's interesting about the film is its use of music, which, I mean, to some extent owes a debt to Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, but that hand clapping is particularly evocative. And all the way through the film, I mean, the director himself talks about the film as being like an old ballad, and he talks about it. He wants the film to play like a ballad that you've forgotten, that you remember, and it deals with these archetypal outlaw characters who are living in a period in which the dream of the Old West has gone. There are constant nods towards on the one hand Terrence Malick, obviously, with Badlands, toward McCabe and Mrs. Miller. In terms of that soundtrack, I mean, I think there's a little bit of the influence of Johnny Greenwood's pizzicato strings from There Will Be Blood. So the film has this sort of old-fashioned nostalgic vision, and it is absolutely seeped in it. Everything's shot in Miller time. You keep catching the dust in the lenses, and everything sort of glows. And an awful lot of the dialogue is fantastically mumbly. I mean, funnily enough, that clip there was one of the more easy to understand pieces. There were several times in the movie in which characters were talking to each other, and I could tell I wasn't just the only person in the cinema who couldn't quite understand what they were saying, but it didn't kind of matter, because the mumblecore aspect of it is very much part of what the film is about. I think that some people will make a sort of simple Terrence Malick comparison and go, okay, well, it's it's second-rate Terrence Malick, and it's long and noodly, and the pacing is very, very slow, because of course clearly the writer-director isn't interested in the heist, and he isn't interested in the prison break. He's interested in the aftermath of all of those things. And the best way of describing the film is it's like listening to an old tune. It's like watching somebody sift through the wreckage of something which has already happened. I think actually I was won over by it, so much so because the score worked really well. The use of music, the use of folk, the use of blues, the way in which something went from being a theme that was somebody actually playing guitar in a scene that would then become incidental music, joining music, would then take you to a bar room where somebody else was picking a banjo, and all the way through those kind of hand claps that would remind you to some extent of that brilliant moment in Winter's Bone in which Fair and Tender Ladies is played. I understand that the pacing is probably noodly enough to put off a lot of people, and the phrase that people keep using about the film is it's a Sundance favourite. It's a Sundance favourite, which means, I mean, actually it was supported by the Sundance Institute, but that tends to mean films that look beautiful and are rather navel-gazing. I thought much more highly of it like that. I thought it was a genuinely sort of heartfelt, nostalgic piano. I thought that Casey Affleck was terrific, as was Rooney Mara, as indeed is Ben Foster, and I was sort of swept away in the magic of it all. Not for everybody, but if you've got a love of those old late 60s, early 70s films, and you don't just want to see somebody just attempting to replicate them, but to do something interesting with that idea that whole period is gone, that it is a sort of love song to a lost era, to the lost Western, to the lost pace of 70s cinema, to a love lost at the beginning of the film, then I think, like me, you'll end up swooning. I mean, it takes a leap of faith, but I was willing to make it.